Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you everything you need to know to start taking creative long exposure images. We're going to break it down into simple steps, run through a bunch of different situations and show you how to make some really cool effects with basic equipment. Now, a long exposure is basically anything where the shutter stays open longer than, say, half a second. It means that you need a tripod because as you're leaving the shutter open, the image is building up over time. Depending on how long you leave the shutter open and how fast things are moving, you can blur things out a little, a lot, or make them totally disappear. Okay, now a little bit of theory. There's three things you need to think about to let you know how much time you need to be leaving the shutter open in your long exposure to get the results you want. First of all is consider the overall light. Now this comes down to exposure. You can check out the link I've done on using manual settings below, but we're not going to need to use manual in this video. Just think about that. If we're going to leave the shutter open a long time, that's lots of light coming in. So we need to be careful of how much daylight or ambient light is there, what aperture are we using, and what's our ISO, and we may need to restrict those either using camera settings or putting a neutral density filter on so that we can get the shutter speed that we want. The next thing is, how much blur do you want in your shot? Do you want it to just be a little bit blurred out, or extremely blurred out, or to just totally disappear? And then the last thing is, how fast is your subject moving? If you're shooting a Formula One car at 1/100th of a second, it's still going to be terribly blurred. But, you know, someone walking, you may need to drop it down to like 1/15th of a second to really get much blur going on. Same with water, same with clouds, same with anything moving. If it's moving slow, then you need to have a longer shutter speed to get the blur. If it's moving quick, then not so long of a shutter speed and you're still going to get the blurred effect. Okay, does that make sense? So let's go off and do a couple of different tests now where we'll demonstrate all of this. I'll give you all the settings so that you can go out and try it for yourself. To kick things off, I headed out into the rain to get some cars' headlights streaking. Now, the tricky thing about cars is they actually move all at different speeds, especially if you're at an intersection like this. So it's all about finding lines that are going to give you nice light trails. So here's two shots that I took, with a straight line. But of course, being at an intersection, being able to get the angle and the turning of the cars works really well too. So here's a few different shots. And you can see it's really interesting with it. They have flashing lights on, or bright headlights or tail lights, the different effects that it can create. And then if you're standing still enough, you can get yourself in there. I wasn't very good at it, but this guy was walking past and was happy to oblige. That one at a shorter exposure time worked out a lot better. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who hates shopping centres and all the crowds of people, especially around holiday times, but you can make them disappear with your digital SLR. Just put it into shutter speed priority, which is what we're doing in all of these shots, and then time it down to like 30 seconds. It'll give you a really small aperture. In this case, I also used filters, and then there you go. You can make everyone disappear. If only it was that easy in real life. Next up, I headed out to Bronte Beach on Sydney's coast, which is a lovely spot to get some different shots showing you the effects you can create on the water. Okay, for this first setup, I wanted to show you, reasonably fast moving water, but from a distance. So this one was half a second at f16. Next one, that's 1 second. You can see it has smoothed out a little bit there. Then I put filters on. So now we're at 3 seconds, 10 seconds. You can see it's really smoothing out there. And now we're at 20 seconds using lots of ND filters at f20, and the water's really nice and smooth. Next up, I moved to this area where the water's moving reasonably slow, but it's also beautifully consistent and smooth, so you can create a really nice effect there. This first one, using a load of ND filters, is shot at 20 seconds, and you can see the water's fairly transparent there. You can almost see the rocks underneath. And this next one at 30 seconds at f11, you really can start to see through it quite nicely. Next up, I elegantly climbed over the rocks to get to another location where the water was a lot rougher to get these next shots for you. This one was a 10-second exposure at f8, and the water looks really milky. And then here at 20 seconds at f14, you can see I timed it between strong waves, and the water's nice and transparent. If I'd gone for 30 seconds, it probably would have taken on that really glassy look. So I hope that helps, guys. Whether you want to make things completely disappear, show things with dramatic movement, do creative self-portraits or beautiful landscapes, whatever you want to do, you can do it with a long exposure. Just pop your camera into shutter priority, choose an appropriate shutter speed based on what we discussed at the beginning, and you're off. I hope that helps. Please click to like, share it around, subscribe if you haven't already. You might also like to check out my video explaining aperture and depth of field. Take a look at the tripod playlist so you can pick a suitable one for yourself. Also a video on getting out of auto mode so you understand manual exposure. And then you can also check out my latest project, Take Control of the Light. Thanks, and I'll see you soon. Well, it's fine here, but I really got to get over there into the real action. Anyone who's seen the channel for a while knows I fall over a lot. Let's see how I go on these rocks. Oh, lots of crabs out today. And I'm down. I was just coming down to show you a good angle on the crabs. Brilliant. Okay. Note to self, green equals slippery.